is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean78904. If you want to get all technical on me, that is the handle in the DFS industry. 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, it's a 15-game full slate, so 3-man booth. I think I'm reuniting, right, Will? This is the reunion of yourself and Luch. You guys did the basketball podcast end of the season. I don't know if you guys kept in touch, if you wrote each other or tweeted or I don't know how that works, but is this the first time you guys have done anything since then? Because I know that was a thing.
Listen, since we're back to the Bubble Brothers, reunited and it feels so good. Yes, sir. Bubble Brothers are in the building. Dean, it's going to be a lot of singing. There's going to be some food talk today. We're just going to hijack this whole show. And I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, good to have my boy Luch in the building. Should be a fun show. Dropping some
peaches and herb, I believe. Speaking of food, there you go. Hey, it's Luch. What's going on, Luch? You've been obviously in the show previously. I think we did a more intimate show previously. It was just the two of us. Now the three of us. A lot to talk about as far as this slate tonight. How are things in your world, DFS and otherwise?
We're good over here. Busy week. A lot of things happening. I did some Olympic golf research, and wow, going to be super interesting there. You know, Olympic hoops. I've been dabbling in. Stayed up till 1:30 in the morning to watch Luka Doncic play. Something like that the other night, but huge MLB slate. You know, I'm going to dabble this evening, and a lot of moving parts. There's been, some pitching changes and some news updates that I'm sure you're going to tackle. So this is going to be a fun one tonight, guys.
I didn't know Luis Scola. You guys know how old Luis Scola is? I didn't realize he was still playing basketball. Maybe he's just the Olympic team, or is he mopping up, or he's like a regular?
Oh, he's a centerpiece of Argentina, and I think he's 41.
41.
Crazy.
Yeah, good for him.
Luis Scola is always like this in these types of games, though. And then he comes to the NBA and he sits on the bench and rots away. But when he's playing with this national team, man, he's unstoppable all the time. It's crazy.
Is Ginobili playing international ball or no? That's not a thing anymore, is it? I'm guessing no.
He has retired.
Correct. Okay. I know he retired in the NBA. I wasn't certain if he's just still doing international stuff, but I haven't been watching nearly as much as I probably should be. I guess when it gets closer to the medal rounds and things like that. If the United States happens to be there, we'll see. I guess that's still in question, but I'll definitely keep an eye on that. You watch it?
Let me plug this in secretly.
Yeah.
And now not so secretly because we're on the World Wide Web. We got a live show here. 103
being recorded.
Watching currently. I think my favorite Olympic sport is like any of the swimming tournaments. I mean, it's fantastic, man. I saw one the other night. I mean, I can't even remember what time it was. I just flipped it on. I was like, oh, swimming, great. And it was fantastic. And up until like the last lap, one of the guys from the US was in like 7th place. And then it just ended up finishing in 3rd out of nowhere. I was like, whoa. Anyway, swimming is always pretty good. So I love those.
I saw a couple of highlights. It's always cool to see like people rooting on. It's like you're watching somebody's like greatest moment of their life, like, and you get a peek in it. It's pretty cool. Or one of the greatest moments, obviously. But the 17-year-old from Alaska, that was pretty cool, winning surprisingly, apparently, the other night. Rowdy Gaines, the announcer. I don't know what that guy does for like 3 years and 334 other days or whatever it may be. Do the math on me, but he whenever he pops up, he is phenomenal. He's very good at calling the swimming and getting excited about it. So I don't know. Is that up your alley as well, Luch? You into the swimming at all, or is that DFS centric? I don't think you can play. There's some sports, basketball, but I don't think swimming's a thing, to my knowledge.
No, but it's fun. It's exciting. It's tough with the time differential and everything, but I've been catching some of the recaps, and it's been a busy couple of weeks, man. I'm excited. Some hot stove rumors around MLB, and it's always fun when you have just such a massive slate like tonight's, and looking forward to breaking it down with you guys.
The lukewarm stove, Alexander Anderson was traded earlier today from Pittsburgh. He's not throwing baseballs tonight. Looks like it's going to be a bullpen game, far as I can tell. Cody Ponce drawing the start, and he's a reliever. Jared Eichhoff is going to be a starter for the Mets. If you guys did not catch that, and I'm pretty sure they've DFA'd him twice. They just can't seem to get rid of him. And he's been an absolute stone disaster, like terrible ballpark. But Atlanta all of a sudden becomes an interesting team for me tonight. Eichhoff, quite possibly the worst pitcher, taking the bump. Let's take a screenshot as far as a slate. We're going to break it down in a second. Obviously, from a pitching perspective, I want to have a good conversation as far as stacks. We'll go around the horn really quickly, and of course, we'll yield to the chat. What up, chat? do like, subscribe, turn on notifications, ask us some questions. We're happy to answer those. Whatever you don't hear us talk about, it'll be plenty because it's a 15 gamer. Can't really talk about everything. If we talk about everything, how helpful is that? Yeah, just ask us to elaborate about certain players or, why this guy went up, that guy, yada, yada, this guy or that guy too. We can answer that. But, broad questions, this stack, that stack, do put notes in there. Let us know if it's for DK, if it's for cash, if it's for tournaments, yada, yada, yada. All right. Helps us a good bit. Give me the screenshot, Will, as far as this slate. It's a lot going on. There's a lot of pitchers that I like, none that I love, and a lot of offenses I like and none that I love. That's kind of where I'm at. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitching is fairly top heavy, especially on FanDuel. I do think, there are a couple other guys like that are not going to be Lance McCullers. Let's just get that out of the way. I think he's going to be number one. I do think there are a couple other guys that you can use to get some salary relief if you need it, especially on FanDuel, man. Like Kenta Maeda at 83, I think it's going to be fairly popular in that range. The problem is you got him and Morton kind of bunched together, and both of those guys I think are on their way to 40 plus fantasy points on FanDuel, which is going to be incredible at those prices. And so I really don't think there's a need to go below Kenta Maeda on FanDuel. In fact, if I was multi-entering today, I think Maeda, Morton, Sandy Alcantara is a guy I like today as well at 93, and then Robbie Ray and Lance McCullers. That would kind of be my pool on FanDuel. Of course, on DK, it's going to be a little different because you got to have two and you want to piece it together a little bit differently. But I think on FanDuel, outside of, the number one option at Lance McCullers, who's going to be the top spend up, Kenta Maeda and Charlie Morton, I think, are in pretty good spots.
Pinch runner, Kenta Maeda last night. I'm not sure if you saw that. He was the pinch runner. They picked him over La Tortuga, the tortoise, I believe was the other option. He was the pinch runner that I think scored the winning run in the bottom of the 10th in extra innings there. Old man Kenta Maeda. I'm not really sure who else the other options were, but somehow he was the guy. The tricky part with him, I did reference he's an old man, by baseball standards, obviously. Doesn't throw a lot of baseballs. You're looking for hopefully 90, maybe 95. You're not really going to get to 100, but the price is too cheap on FanDuel. It's too cheap on DK at 8.2K as well. He's facing a Tiger team that's, not very good. So, yeah, for sure. He's definitely probably in my cash game. I have running some cash games on DK. I'm almost definitely going to pair him with, there's so many hitters that are so cheap, and we'll talk about that. It's just the prices are really, really goofy on DK today. It's just completely absurd. But, yeah, as far as this Detroit lineup, there's plenty of Ks in there. Stretch back to last season, 26.9% collectively as far as striking out. You mentioned Ray. I want to talk about Ray because I think it's a really interesting conversation for tournaments. Also worth noting, that is the one game where there were some potential weather issues. Chief meteorologist Kevin Roth, of course, will be all over that on Crunch Time, give you the guys most updated update. But as of right now, as of this minute, it's currently orange-yellow with a pretty decent chance of starting dry and an in-game delay, a fairly long one. Again, this is the report at 5 o'clock and an eventual finish. We shall see. Stay tuned on that. Roth will give us final thoughts on Crunch Time. If you're premium members, you guys can watch that. How do you do that? Get yourself $10 off the first month. We're going to go ahead and drop that link in chat. That's for baseball, any one sport, $10 off for all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, MMA, esports, golf. I'm sure I missed some. The only one that is the exception, a la carte, happens to be NASCAR. Otherwise, you get them all. $10 off either way. Devin's going to go ahead and drop that link in chat for you people. Your thoughts there, Luch, as far as Maeda, he's super chalky and he, quote unquote safe, or as safe as pitchers can be. But I don't know how high the ceiling is, but how high does it have to be, especially when you consider the price?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I'll have a good chunk of him as well. Great matchup. Pretty similar thoughts as well. Charlie Morton, another guy who's carrying some ownership. He's striking out 33% of lefties, and I think the Mets are rolling out 5 of them. So I don't mind, Charlie Morton, another guy we didn't mention. We talked about McCullers, but no, I like Maeda. I'm gonna have a lot of him against Detroit. It's a great matchup. We'll see what the weather brings, but really tight pitching pool for me too. Chief, I know you mentioned Alcantara. He's back. He's 8,500 on DK. I'm never crazy about pitching anybody at Camden and Baltimore, but I think he's a decent bounce back candidate here. Really on a slate where, other than, nobody's really wowing me. You said it really well, Dean, like a lot of guys, don't love a lot of guys on both sides, on the mound and in the batter's box too tonight.
All right, Chief, talk about Alcantara. Will?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I just think in terms of where he lines up, everything I do is going to be mostly in plate IQ, and there's just so many things so many options that I have that I look at. And I think the biggest thing is, on the season, he's only got a 21.3% K rate. But overall, the lineup he's going to face tonight, 2 through 7, are all in the 20s. And then he's got Labor down there at the bottom at 23.4%. Weather's okay. The big thing is he's a much better pitcher against righties. He's at 26%. Well, you look at this lineup, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 righties. This just smells like a chance for him to have an okay game here. Pretty high velocity on the fastball, over 97. And when you look at that, I mean, a lot of these guys have pretty good whiff rates, 31, 25, 32, 22, 35. I mean, those are really big whiff rates on a fastball there against righties. And then he's going to be the throwing in the slider and the sinker as well. And so a lot of these guys they're not hitting sliders well this season in terms of contact rates. I mean, outside of Cedric Mullins, who I very much expect to hit a home run today. I just expect Alcantara to have a good game. If you look at these slider rates in terms of contact, Austin Hayes, 58%, Trey Mancini, 61%, Mountcastle, 58%, DJ Stewart, 66%, Urias, 63%, Pedro Severino, 54%, Maikel Franco, 62.73%, and Domingo Leyva, 60%. No one's really hitting the slider really well. So I think Alcantara is going to have a pretty good day despite the really good weather at Camden. And so that's kind of why I'm on him on FanDuel, just kind of as a sneaky play. I fully expect Lance McCullers to gather most of the ownership. And I do think that Maeda and Charlie Morton are better plays for the price. But I think for the ownership, you're not going to see a lot on Alcantara. And he could absolutely put up 50 today in terms of FanDuel scoring if everything broke his way.
If you pair Morton Maeda, that's like the oldest pitching combination I might run out all season long. Those guys are both, high 30s? They're 40 years old. Maeda might be 41. But yeah, Morton's the K's have been there of late. 8 last time out. Before that, 8, 7, 7, 7. Nice matchup here against the Mets, like you said, positive ballpark as well. I think let's take some broad strokes as well too, as far as umpire stuff. Yeah, so Morton has an extreme pitchers umpire, and Maeda has an extreme pitchers umpire. The only extreme hitters umpire as of right now, not all the data's in just yet, is the Robbie Ray at Garrett Richards game. So again, there's some potential weather there as well too. And the other broad stroke you kind of mentioned there, Chief, as far as the weather being positive for hitting in Baltimore, that is the case all around. If you pull up the Weather Edge tool, we got the fire emoji for Pittsburgh. Not a great ballpark, obviously, but nice little bump as far as the temperature and the dew point. Baltimore's got the flame emoji, 90 degrees as far as the temperature. We're expecting a bump of 13% of homers in 150 previous games. Philadelphia fire emoji, 123 previous games, similar weather, 90 degrees. The wind's blowing out a little bit out there to right field, 26.9% as far as homers. We've seen a bump. Even a bump in Fenway at 35% of homers in 83 similar games. The Met Stadium, another terrible place to hit baseballs, but a bump there as well. And the big bump is Chicago, 146 games, similar weather. Doesn't matter who the hitters are or the pitchers are. That's all we have is just the exact weather or similar weather, more or less. 46.3% bump in homers, 26.7% bump in runs. And that's a sample of 146 games, winds blowing out dead center, 10 miles per hour, 84 degrees. How much do we care about this, Luke? Because it's something. How do you quantify all this?
I care. I definitely care. And you're talking about a pitcher in Gutierrez who struck out one batter over his last 10 innings. So a guy who, was probably one of the luckier pitchers, quote unquote, luckier pitchers, his first couple of starts when he got the call up. So, I do like Chicago quite a bit. I like both sides of this game, and just flipping the bill here in terms of weather. I like some of these Reds lefties as well. Winker, Votto, Tyler Naquin. Naquin is very cheap, but Alizé has given up 2 home runs in 5 of his last 6 starts. So, I don't mind a secondary stack with some of these Reds, with the weather, as you mentioned too. He does throw about 25% of sinkers to lefties. Winker has a 50% hard hit and 319 ISO against lefty sinkers. Joey Votto, 53% hard hit, plus he's on a heater right now too, against those sinkers. And Naquin lines up, decent as well too. So I think both sides of this game, great environment. I definitely care. It's a pretty significant bump to the bats, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as far as totals, it's reflective in the Philadelphia game. Fetty versus Matt Moore, 10.5 is a big number. 11, despite the fact Robbie Ray is throwing baseballs. Of course, that's a positive ballpark with two pretty good offenses there, Toronto and Boston. The Chicago line is at 10.5 now. And I didn't mean to slight, like Kansas City is not this great ballpark, obviously. But good ballpark for hits, not for homers necessarily, but there is a fire emoji there as well. And also in Minnesota, smaller samples. I wouldn't really do much of those samples, 15 games and 25 games as far as what we've seen in previous games. Chief, your thoughts as far as just weather in general, and from a pitching perspective, we'll talk stacks soon enough, but how much is that affecting your lineup build this evening?
Yeah, I think this Weather Edge is a fantastic tool. I absolutely include it in my process. And when you look at some of these games where, you're looking at and we don't have to convince ourselves about the Cubs, right? Or about that stadium, that ballpark. When it's hot, wind blowing out, everybody knows to get on that game. But what we may not have thought about is the fact that outside of Jared Eichhoff, which is why, a lot of people are going to like the Braves, it's good hitting weather in New York too. Yeah. And that's a spot where I think we probably would not have gravitated towards outside of Eichhoff pitching. So let's say we had, I don't know, I'm going to do a throwback New York name like a Seth Lugo. Let's say, what if Seth Lugo was on the mound today? I don't think we'd be considering the Braves, but Weather Edge suggests that there is an edge in taking bats from this game. And then the Toronto and Boston, we know about that stadium too. So I'm not going to worry about that. But I think those two, and then, everybody knows about Philly. But I think Weather Edge just gives us some really good insight, especially when you start getting into the 83 game category, 81 games. I think we're starting to get a pretty good sample size. So I get really excited about this stuff. And then 146 games for the Cubs, which is just ridiculous. Number one spot on the slate for sure in terms of Weather Edge.
Baez was in and now he's out, and that's unfortunate because I don't know if you guys watched that game yesterday. He had a hell of a walk-off against Amir Garrett, and I thought for sure we would see some fun shenanigans. But unfortunately, Baez has been since scratched. We have Aaron Judge back as well as Urshela. They're back for the Yankees tonight, and I think that's an interesting conversation as far as McClanahan. He's just a good strikeout pitcher. And this is kind of leads into my conversation of there's a lot of pitchers I like in this slate, not a lot of necessarily love. If I'm running 150, McClanahan is for sure in my player pool. I think you could play Montgomery on the other side. The Rays offer you plenty of Ks. He's cheap enough if you want to kind of expand as far as salary stuff. Kaprelian has been good. I don't want to pick on San Diego. Who wants to pick on Tatis, and they added Frazier. Is just not a fun guy to necessarily face. Not this big imposing bat, but he's professional hitter, whatever you want to call him. It just kind of makes that lineup even stronger. I haven't seen it just yet, but it should be pretty good. But Kaprelian is just a good pitcher that nobody's going to roster today. And that kind of leads us to Robbie Ray as well. He's a good pitcher. Nobody's going to roster him. And Chief, you remember the old Cheese rules. This was the rules from last year. You're supposed to not play Robbie Ray when people are playing him. You're supposed to play him when people aren't playing him. Of course, that was based upon how volatile he was. He's not nearly as volatile this year. He's going to get those, walks under control. But nobody's playing Robbie Ray. We played him, at least I did. I played him 5 days ago in this very same matchup. It was different slate, different pitchers. I think it was much shorter. And I'm just like, well, I think he's going to get enough Ks, yada, yada. Maybe that was a mistake. He gave him 3 homers because there's plenty of power, obviously, on the Boston side. But, your thoughts as far as those pitchers and Cease is another one, a pretty good pitcher that nobody's really going to play. Robbie Ray, a good pitcher nobody's really going to play. Alcantara, good pitcher nobody's really going to play. Who did I miss? And McClanahan, good strikeout pitcher that no one's really going to play. What do you do with this?
Yeah, I think we just – and I'm gonna key in on Robbie Ray because that was kind of how we started this whole scenario. I think with Robbie Ray, it's the law of averages, right? I know this team has seen him, but even Max Scherzer is going to get shelled a couple times. Shane Bieber is going to get shelled a couple times. All these guys. Garrett Cole got shelled for 2 or 3 games in a row right after the whole, Spider Tech or, Serum or whatever debacle. Same thing with Giolito. He was dead for a couple games. And then all of a sudden, these guys come back, and it's like, well, I'm myself again. And so I don't really want to read it too much into it. I think the only thing that would keep me off Robbie Ray is probably just more so weather. Like if Roth comes online and says, oh, by the way, he's probably going to pitch 3 innings and then they're going to have a 3-hour delay, then of course I don't need to be getting involved with Robbie Ray. If he thinks he goes 6 or 7, I'm telling you, Robbie Ray's got the stuff to case 7 or 8 guys, give up a run and still be fine in 6 innings. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't ever look for a pitcher to get out of a game without giving up a run or two. Like, that's just not the way I think. I don't expect guys to go 9 innings every game and not give up any runs. That's not realistic. Realistic to me is a guy's going to give up 2 or 3. Does he have the stuff to get the 7 or 8 strikeouts that I need to overcome the runs, get the quality start, and possibly have his team in a position to win? I think if we looked at this particular matchup, our assumption would be that Toronto is primed to win this game today based on the two pitchers. So that's kind of how I feel about Robbie Ray. Dylan Cease, kind of the same scenario, right? You were talking about these are guys that may not get played. Like, yeah, I mean, I think Dylan Cease is fine. Me personally on FanDuel, because there's only one pitcher, he just didn't quite make it. On DK, he'd absolutely be in my pool, because we have to roster 2 of these guys. Same thing kind of for McClanahan. He's not going to make it either. But that's just because I trust Charlie Morton and Kenta Maeda a little bit more than I trust him against the Yankees. And I'm not saying the Yankees are out here crushing baseballs. I'm just saying for the prices, we're getting Charlie Morton at 86 and Kenta Maeda at 83, and they've got much better matchups in my opinion overall. I know he's in Tampa. I know it's a great pitcher's park, but I like those guys a little bit better. So he just doesn't quite make it on FanDuel. On DK, I think we're getting into a totally different discussion where we're trying to roster 2 guys.
Yeah, this Tampa lineup's interesting because you look at the Montgomery against them, and the first 4 guys on the Tampa side, some are smaller samples with, Juan DeFranco, but 11%, 15, 16% as far as striking out versus lefties, but the back half, no less than 24% there against Montgomery. Montgomery in the season, pretty fine, 24%. I'm not a case of but perfectly okay. And good control pitcher as well, too. And the price is kind of reflective as well. Let me jump. There's a couple more we even ignore. But any thoughts there, Luch, as far as the guys you mentioned? And also, I didn't talk about, and I'm going to look at our ownership as well. Like Ray, we're seeing at 5% on DK. Didn't mention Urias. Good pitcher. Nobody's going to play him. He's 2%. Like nobody's playing Urias. And Wainwright, nobody's going to play Wainwright. The price is a little bit ridiculous, but 8.8, that's fine, I guess. And he's been pretty good this year against Cleveland, jumping the American League, but it's not a very imposing lineup. 7% as far as ownership. And I skip Paddock because I'm just probably not playing Paddock. Oakland's a pretty patient team. Paddock was good last time versus the Marlins. I know Oakland's losing their DH, and I'm just not a Paddock guy. And if he beats me, whatever, so be it. You guys can otherwise tell me if you're playing him. And Brad Keller, I think I saw somebody in chat talking about them as well. And again, keep firing your questions off there in chat. We'll get to them soon enough. I just don't know if I do that savings. He's 5.9 on DK, of course not on FanDuel. I just prefer to play like a guy like Dunning, who I think is actually just good. I know he's not going to go 7 innings, but whatever. Your thoughts here, Luch? There's a lot to tackle. Again, a lot of names that are playable.
Yeah.
How do they separate themselves from the pack?
This is just a slate where there's a lot of good a lot of above average real life pitchers, right? So it's hard to, if you think none of these high end guys are going to have a ceiling game, then I'm more than fine with throwing some darts at Jordan Montgomery. You took the words out of my mouth. It's the top 4 guys in that lineup of Tampa Bay are terrifying against left-handed batter because they're very disciplined. They draw walks. Nelson Cruz on a tear. Montgomery has a pretty decent pitch mix, but he throws 27% changeups to righty batters, and Nelson Cruz just mashes lefty changeups. So, I mean, if Montgomery can survive and maybe get a little lucky in this top half of the Tampa lineup, it's Jekyll and Hyde. It's night and day. The bottom of this lineup, 5 through 9, it's massive K rates here. So on this slate, I don't mind Montgomery on DK. I wouldn't play him on FanDuel, really. I don't know what the ceiling is, but it's 6,700 on DK, where a bunch of these guys you rattled off just aren't wowing me, whether it's a price thing. McClanahan, 9,300 on DK. If he was 8,300, sure. My typical rule of thumb, Deem, is whenever the Yankees are on a slate and there's anybody formidable on the mound against them, I like to sprinkle him in GPPs because, yeah, it's great that Judge is back in the lineup for sure. But just another guy with a massive K rate if the ball's not going over the fence. So I like Montgomery on DK. I think he's a great value play, and especially in large field GPPs.
Yeah, like you said, plenty of Ks there in that the New York lineup. LeMahieu, is a contact guy, and Judge actually this year, 103 at bats, only 19.4%. I say only against the striking out versus lefties. That's pretty good. But Sanchez and Stanton over 25% each. I would have guessed it was higher. Odor only at 24. I would have guessed that was higher too. You probably stretch those sample sizes out. I would guess they would jump a little bit as well. Allen did crack the lineup. It's a small sample. He hasn't struck out a lot, but I feel like that's probably deceptive, to be honest. Only 8 ABs. Well, we got to move on and talk about stacks soon enough. But
yes.
Well, did you have any thoughts? Feel free to finalize your thoughts. Or I threw out Wainwright. I threw out Cease, Keller. I don't know how many of these guys you need is the other part of it. Like
I would be stacking against Brad Keller. I don't care if it's his birthday, which we discovered by a good friend D. Justin Carlucci. I stack against Brad Keller every time, and it's only burned me, I think, once this season. He put up like 49 or something on FanDuel. I didn't care about that. Overall, if you've been stacking against Brad Keller, you've been making some money. I'm not going to buy into the fact that mysteriously he's going to come out and destroy someone today. Not buying it.
Do you care about Paddock? I don't. There's so many other guys I like ahead of him, and I just don't think I need him. He could be okay, but whatever.
I've been actually stacking against Chris Paddock most games, and that's worked out fine this season. So I'm not playing Chris Paddock.
Give me your final thoughts as far as pitchers.
I mean, I think it's the same, normal group that I've talked about. I'm just going to kind of give it to you from a FanDuel perspective because that's what I'm doing. Lance McCullers, I do think he's the, clear number one guy per se out of this top group in terms of pricing. I'm just not sure I'm going to get there. I think Charlie Morton's a better value. I think Kenta Maeda is a better value. And then I don't think Alcantara – I think he's got enough upside on this slate to where you look at the end of the night, he's got 49 fantasy points. It's like, so I like those guys a lot. I haven't committed to playing McCullers, but what I will say is this. You guys know I'm going to have to give you out my prize pick stuff. Lance McCullers is projected for about 38 fantasy points on prize picks today, over under. And I know that might seem like a high number. I think Houston wins this game. I think McCullers gets 6 or 7 Ks, maybe gives up a run or two. That's going to put him anywhere between 43 and 46 points in my book. So I'm absolutely going to take the over on that. If you guys want to hear a couple others, I don't get into bats a whole lot, but I have been getting into it more because I'm doing this video. Freddie Freeman at 8.5 is ridiculous. I mean, one swing of the bat, the ball goes over the fence, your prop's done for the night. You can go ahead and walk the base paths with him. And then last but not least, we've got Kenta Maeda. No, not Kenta Maeda. Sandy Alcantara. We've got over under 4.5 strikeouts. I think he gets over 4.5 strikeouts in this spot. So I would take that prop for sure. And if you like the fantasy prop, he's at 26 fantasy points. And I've got the over on that as well. But that's Sandy Alcantara. So recap, Sandy Alcantara over 4.5 strikeouts. Freddie Freeman over 8.5 fantasy points. And then we've got Lance McCullers over 38 fantasy points. And I've got more than that, but I think those should hit easily.
Yeah, you mentioned your video. I believe your video comes on Mondays on the YouTube channel or possibly on the Twitter. Look out for that. Of course, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. That's how you know when it's coming out. You mentioned McCullers. We kind of sort of somewhat glossed over him, but he's going to throw close to 100 pitches pretty much every single time. Sometimes he's efficient, sometimes he's not. He probably should be efficient against a Seattle team, and it's very similar to Tampa as far as the back five. Raleigh, Torrens, Kelnick, Moore, and Long. We're talking about strikeouts of 39%, 29%, 30%, 35%, 31% against righties this year. And McCullers has a 29.2% K rate. Of course, walks are kind of sort of somewhat an issue for him, 11%. That's bad, but it's not necessarily this really, really patient team outside of Seager and Crawford and Kelnick in a small sample. Your final thoughts here as far as pitchers, Leach?
No, I mean, we pretty much covered it. Like I said, Montgomery, DK value, worth a couple of darts. Good point against with McCullers in Seattle. Great matchup. I'm probably going to try to be a little overweight on Charlie Morton. I know the weather is a little hitter friendly there, but I like all the lefties that New York's rolling out. Although they're decent lefty bats for the most part, I like that K rate Morton's been sporting there. And, if you could avoid the long ball, I think Morton is one of my top plays tonight.
Yeah, and I'm mostly just throw mine in there. I'm mostly concentrated on Maeda, Morton, McCullers. On DK and my cash lineup will be almost definitely some combination of those two. I'm okay stepping down to Montgomery. I'm okay with McClanahan in tournaments, and I'm okay with Alcantara in tournaments too. Those are kind of sort of some of my favorites. I will say Paddock 6-7 on FanDuel does seem really cheap, and it is kind of tempting, but it's a trap. Maybe it is. Hopefully it is, because I don't think I'm playing him. And Urias at 8-7 is pretty good too. Pretty good price there. Let's talk about stacks. Luch, open up the conversation as far as stacks and in. How much do you care about stacks when it comes like a ownership, when it comes to a 15 game? It's a full slate. We're expecting every game to play. So it's going to be definitely spread out for sure. And we talked about a lot of great places as far as some weather where, bats should be appealing. The Chicago for one as well. Toronto, Boston, assuming that's a good to go as far as the weather as well. How are you attacking stacking tonight?
Yeah, this is a lot of variables tonight, and I'm typically a full stack guy, no questions asked. I may just go slightly a little less on the full stacks on DK, out of my multi-entering, just because of some of the goofy pricing. And I do think some of these one-offs have sick upside. So, I'll definitely full stack where the weather's hot. We talked about that Cubs Cincy game, and I think everybody has no problem full stacking the Cubs, right? A lot of guys with power upside in that game. Cincinnati, everybody likes the lefties. Hopefully not everybody. Hopefully they come a little under owned here. I mean, we're seeing Votto at 2%. I'm licking my chops right now. Naquin 3%. Gotta love big slates here. That's just crazy to me. And of course, Winker, who even 12%, not really scaring me away here from playing any of those guys here. So I like, full stacking where the weather's super hot. There's a lot of guys in Cincy, going under the radar here. Tyler Stevenson, obviously, not a lefty, but, sick weather, having a pretty good season. I like him. Suarez, 1%. I mean, he's not having the best of seasons that we're accustomed to seeing here, but you're going to give me 1% Suarez in a super weather edge game here. I mean, I'm going to take that all day and
He's
run.
still sitting homers. He's been terrible otherwise, but he sits some homers.
So 1%, I mean, that's fine with me. I love, Cincy here. If other people aren't going to full stack him, I certainly will. But, there are some other really good spots we talked about, and we talked about that Toronto game. I'll definitely have some full stacks, but, you look at, you can definitely run, 4 Blue Jays, and then you're going to give me like a $2,500 Eloy to sprinkle in there against birthday boy Brad Keller and guys like that on this slate. Then I'm okay with it being a little more volatile and, I guess, more outcomes to worry about the more one-offs you play. But on a night like tonight with some of the goofy pricing you alluded to, I'm willing to do it. So
yeah.
I like the Reds, like the Cubs. Obviously the Blue Jays always have killer upside, and I'm sure they'll be fairly popular as well against Garrett Richards.
Wait, speaking of one-offs, let's give a shout out to Head Chopper. Head Chopper, of course, won $1 million twice. I think both in football. I'm pretty certain. But last night he won $100K in baseball, which is $100K more than I won. It was not a good night for your boy. You know what it is? You got to be a goldfish. Ted Lasso. You got to have a short memory. Be a goldfish. Last night didn't happen. Clean slate tonight. He won $100K last night. You mentioned one-offs. He had 4 one-offs. He had a 4-1-1-1-1. So that can be done too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've taken one down like that for sure. Like, and as a matter of fact, I took one down with the Steven Vogt one-off.
Whoa.
When he was in, I think he was in Seattle at the time. Not Seattle, Oakland. I'll never forget it. Steve
By the way,
hit one out of the park, and I said, "Wait a minute, I think I just won something." And sure enough, I was up in first.
100K, 20K.
No. This was probably, I think, more like 20K or something like that. It wasn't 100. It was, one of the $300 monsters or something. It wasn't anything crazy.
30K,
but, hey, I still won.
Why even get out of bed for that? It's funny because Dave Potts, Jesus good. He's won a couple $1 million as well. He does our premium content, writes one of the premium articles here, 5 times a week. He's on Crunch Time many times, maybe after this show. I don't really know. But he was talking last night about he won 100K on Friday, and he just woke up the next day and realized that he had no clue. He's like, oh, I guess I had a good night last night. Just slept right through it.
Those are the best kind. Dean, that's what I do. You just, hey, when you're ready to go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know how you
wake up.
I don't know how you do that.
No way.
I'm going to tell you exactly how you do it. This is how you do it. You take your phone and you sit it down on your nightstand or table or wherever. You turn on your TV, watch you some Netflix, and in Chop's case, it's going to be Redbox.
Yeah.
You watch you something, you get you a little nighttime snack, maybe some pineapple or banana or oranges, whatever. You lay down in your bed, you put your head in that pillow, you close your eyes, you go to sleep. And then you wake up in the middle of the night, 4 or 5 in the morning, which is getting closer to morning, by the way. And you said,
What morning is that?
Let me check my phone and see how I did.
Okay. On the next episode of Life Hacks with Will Priester, he'll tell us whose favorite stacks on FanDuel are going to be. So let's hear him, Chief. What do you got for us?
I mean, I'm trying to go off the board because I think everybody's on Atlanta. I think everybody's going to be on the Cubs and maybe not Cincinnati as much, but I think those are kind of two obvious spots. I do like Houston today, and I've been talking about Houston along and along, and I know they came back from the All-Star break, and everybody thought they were broken. And if you watch what's been happening, they've started dialing up the runs yet again, and it doesn't matter where they've been. They're out in Seattle scoring 10 runs a night now. And so against Chris Flexen, I really do like Houston here. I think this is a really good spot for them. Also, I will be the White Sox. I said I don't believe in Brad Keller.
Yeah.
The White Sox are on the list in terms of, teams that I think, should have pretty good nights. And then
but never again. They stunk last night. So that means they can't play them ever again, right? It's not never again.
Be a goldfish. Be a goldfish.
Big goldfish. There you go.
And then I think I think both sides of the Washington Philly game. Mm-hmm. I think those are some big time spots, and more people are going to be on that game as well. But I think the unobvious are the other two I talked about in Houston and the White Sox. I think those are the ones that people may just gloss over. I mean, I'm looking at ownership on these guys from Houston on FanDuel outside of Altuve at 14%, because second base is a little crazy. Everybody else we've got projected 2%, Correa at 5%. That's incredible for a team that's been in Seattle raking, starting at about 10 p.m. Eastern time.
So I want to knock out a lot of questions from chat, but I've kind of hinted at some of the egregious prices on this slate, and I'm going to throw some out there, Luch, and DK specific. I'm really going to focus on it because Altuve, you mentioned he's 4 or 5 on DK. Why? Albies is 4K, which is really cheap. Okay, those aren't the super egregious one necessarily that they're bad. Kyle Tucker, why is he 3-3 again on DK? What up with that? That is ridiculous. Against Flexen, one of the worst pitchers in the slate. Eloy Jimenez still 2.5K. Naquin is 2.8K. Carlson's 2.9K. There, Jock Peterson now for Atlanta, and I don't know how much people are going to adjust to this. I think we're adjusting to it for sure, but again, content has definitely changed with the new starter there for the Mets, Eichhoff, who again was DFA twice earlier this year. They could not get rid of him. They tried to get rid of him. Please take this off our hands. And nobody wanted it. Jock Peterson is 3.3K on DK. I think he's 3.2 or 3.1 on FanDuel, leading off on the road there. Terrible ballpark, but you guys know the power on Jock. When he gets a hold of it, who really cares? It's going out of any park. So, how much does that affect your lineup build, Luch? And, how do you not just – again, I think it's going to be some of the big spends that maybe people don't play Ohtani versus a lefty. He's 6.5K, and Soto's 6.2 versus the lefty, and Matt Moore's not a good lefty, and also he'll go lefty power as well, so I don't care. But how do you think people are making lineups? Because I think it's kind of like last night, where you can very easily save salary in the outfield and spend in other spots.
No, I think that's exactly it. That's really good analysis there. And I don't know, maybe the intern was working overtime for DK and decided to hang around after the weekend with the pricing algorithm. I really don't know. I mean, to me, Eloy is the obvious highest upside guy at 25. I mean, even if he was 35, he's kind of still egregiously priced. Great, good matchup too. So, I'm surprised if he really comes in 15% or less at that price. I'm going to be way overweight on Eloy tonight just because of his sick upside. But and you just rattled off 8 to 9 to 10 guys, and 2 of them were Houston guys. Chris Flexen really doesn't strike out anybody. Really hasn't gotten lit up this year, but Houston is hot. And, it could be a big ball and play game for Houston, especially with the discounted prices of Altuve and Tucker for whatever reason. If you're not comfortable playing Montgomery, you might not have to play him in a Houston line and still be able to get your stacks in. So, ironically, that's a late night East Coast game. And you're telling me Chief's going to be going to bed with all of his lineups, ready to rock and roll at 10 Eastern. I don't buy it for a second, Chief. But that's exactly what it is. A lot of value in the outfield and, kind of pay up in the infield and go get one of those top high-end pitchers.
And I didn't mention David Bodie, who's 2.2K on DK, ridiculous. I mean, possible pinch hit hook, I suppose. Rafael Ortega leading off today for Chicago's 2.4K. These are DK prices, not FanDuel prices, by the way.
Ortega's 2K on FanDuel for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, you can get whatever you want. Carter Keyboom is back in our lives, by the way. We talked about Washington. He's super cheap. He's 2.1K. One-time big prospect for Washington. They're going to move Turner probably at some point. They're going to move Scherzer probably at some point. It's going to be really interesting the next week or so as far as the trade deadline.
God, I wish Atlanta was in contention. I'd absolutely be trying to go after Scherzer right now.
It's a bummer. You guys kind of went like, well, let's get Peterson. I guess it probably didn't cost you guys anything, but it's just not going to happen.
No Acuna.
Yeah.
I think you got to get these stats, man. I mean, I'm saying you got to do your rankings, man. I want to get to these questions. We're 9 minutes out from questions.
Yeah, we're not going to go around the horn. I mean, I could do it really quickly, like in like 30, a minute or so, just kind of run down the best plays at each.
We don't need around the horn. We're good.
We don't need that, right? I mean, the people, we're talking about all that. And then if they want to know about a certain player specifically, of course we like Freddie Freeman at first base. Rizzo is 4.2K on DK. That's the guy you're probably playing in cash. We haven't mentioned the Marlins really, but I think Duvall and Aguilar are definitely, really solid plays there. I know, Will, you like yourself some Marlins sometimes, jumping in the American League, jumping against, man, I've stacked against this guy several times.
They're in a good spot. It is what it is, man. I like both. But I'm both of those guys that you mentioned, Marte. And as a matter of fact, I didn't mention Marte in terms of prize picks, but his line is at 7.5. In terms of fantasy points, FanDuel's most kind of sort of FanDuel scoring, they get 2 points for walks there and 2 points for run scored rather than the 3 and 3.5 or 3.2 or whatever it is. But I still like over 7.5 in that spot. A real good spot for him. Another prize picks, selection. I know we're not doing that, but I always want to give out what I'm doing.
Is our promo code still active? Grinders? I don't know if we can go ahead and drop that in chat. GRINDERS, 100% off the pot. I think you get 100% off. I think you get $100, your first $100. So 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Don't misquote me on that one. But yeah, Watkins for Baltimore, he's got an ERA of 1.65, a left on base percentage of 91%, home run to 9.55, 5.6% home run to fly ball, a Sierra of 5.31. That's what kind of all adds up to. Point is, he's been super, super lucky. But yeah, let's knock out questions from the chat. I'm sure more when he coming in as well. Devin's throwing them my way. We're going to play the stack game first. Will, you're batting first. You tell me how much you like this stack. 5 means you love it. 1 means you hate it. 3 means like it's fun. You go first, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Justin afterwards. We're leading off, Will, with Washington. 1 through 5. What do you have?
Yeah, 5.
Boom, dropping the 5.
Yeah, I'm dropping the 5, but I'm bummed that Ryan Zimmerman isn't in the lineup because he was one of my favorite plays. So Josh Bell is in. It's all good, though.
Josh Bell secretly has good numbers today, by the way. I will say.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got for me for Cincinnati, Will? We can only go down from here.
5.
Everybody can't be a 5. I want you to be on my panel to judge. Everybody's a 5?
You only asked 2 teams, Dean.
All right, I'll go 4. I'll just for the sake of argument here, but like him a lot for sure, especially those projected ownerships.
I'm gonna put Will to the test here. Atlanta, Will.
5.
They can't all be 5s.
They can't all be 5s. I like them all equally. I do.
Oh man, you're gonna need another set of 150 lineups if all these are 5s. Well, geez, might have to go in the Bachelor or something. Yeah, I guess I'm going 5 too with Eichhoff here. You got to give me a 5. I can get 1 5, right? Still 5.
You can do whatever you want, man. Houston, Will, is it a 4.5 or a 5?
I'm going 5 on these guys. Like, okay, you want to know a team I would be going? Okay, so do you want to know a team I'd be going like 4.5 on? 4.
Sure.
That would be like Miami would be like a 4 today, right?
Okay.
If you're giving me like Boston, even though it's rain and everybody thinks Robbie Ray's going to get shelled, Boston would be like a 2 for me today. You see what I'm saying? Even I don't care that team total's 5.09. Robbie Ray's not a scrub. Yeah, he got shelled once. Okay, no big deal. So that's what I'm saying, dude. You got to give me something. The Yankees would be like a 2 for me today.
Hey, I'm Ron Burgundy. I just read whatever's thrown up in front of me. And this is the names. This is the teams that are being thrown up in front of me. Devin is throwing my way. This is what the chat is asking for. So I'm just regurgitating.
Yeah.
It says Chicago. I don't know. How about both Chicagos? Doesn't say which one, but we'll give you both Chicagos.
Yeah, Cubs 5, White Sox 4.5.
Now it's like a bit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, a similar response. I'm going 5 and 4, but I really like the White Sox for large field stuff here. Eloy, super cheap. Gavin Sheets, been mashing righty fastball sinker since he's been up. So I think the White Sox are super easy to stack. And maybe the birthday boy Brad Keller is thinking about going out after the game, and maybe he'll be terrible. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and look, so Vaughn is 2.6K, Sheets is 3.4K, Jimenez is 2.5K.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to get. Yeah. You can get any stack you want, basically. That's just so cheap, and you can get 2 pitchers you like as well.
My boy Sean's back in the chat. Said Keller's going to dominate the White Sox. Sean, send me your address. We'll put us a case of lemonade or some jelly beans, gummy worms, you name it.
A case of jelly beans.
Keller's getting destroyed today by the White Sox.
He's had a good month. I'll say Keller's had a good month, right? But he's still only striking out 11 or 14% of righties. So I mean, the ball's going up, man. Like
he's kind of protected by that ballpark, but it's a little bit more exposed today with the heat as well, as far as the homers.
Ladies and gentlemen, why do we like Brad Keller so much? I'm really confused about this. I always try to debunk this Brad Keller myth. You want to know? You want to hear Brad Keller's numbers on the season? 4.82 xFIP, 18.8% K rate, 10.4% walk rate, 42.9% hard hit rate. I mean, why do we like Brad Keller so much on every slate? I'm really confused about this.
Well, not only that,
because he's cheap, but again, I don't need that salary savings. I think
not only that,
are kind of spitting him out too, I think that's happening. But I would reject that. I mean, I might get just a pinch just to get a pinch because he'd be a different shuffle as far as hitters. But Luch, you're going to say I cut you off, but I'm not in on it.
No, I'm not in either. I guess I'm beating a dead horse here. But you have 6 batters in that White Sox lineup with walk rates over 11%. So I mean, there's going to be guys on base regardless. So it's just kind of anticipating potential disaster for Keller, I think, tonight, in my opinion.
Let's see. What else do we have as far as stacks? St. Louis, that's not a one I'm very excited about. They are in the American League and whatever. I guess they're okay. But St. Louis, Will?
No, 2.
Yeah, I'm going with a 1.5, and just got some news from our push notifications. Jock Peterson has a tummy ache and he got scratched. So.
Oh no, I love Jock Jams today.
Yeah.
Who's gonna lead? Oh, who's gonna lead off now? All right, we got to speed this up. Got some questions here. DK GPP. So DK is going to be Luch, right? FanDuel is going to be Will. Do you like Dunning or Keller? Well, I guess we have the answer to that one.
Yep, it's Dunning neither. So, but Dunning, I guess, by default, yeah.
I prefer Dunning by default as well. FanDuel, Cease as a pivot away from Maeda. You go with that? I presume that's in tournaments. Doesn't specify.
Tournaments, absolutely.
I think we can make this one quick. DK, GPP. Any interest in Watkins? No, right? We're not playing Watkins, right?
No, I'm passing there.
I like Randy. Is Randy Watkins available? Sexual chocolate.
Can you rank Randy's after the show?
Jose Suarez is another one. Like, we're not playing Jose Suarez, right? Like, what are we doing?
Negative.
We just talked about 20 guys that are 15 pitchers that are capable.
Negative.
Okay, just want to make sure. Will, strategy question for you. Do you ever play 3 or 4 2-man mini stacks from 3 or 4 different teams? How do you handle mini stacks generally?
I've done it before, but I mean, if I'm doing that, I'm really chasing home runs. Like I'm not chasing the stack perspective. If I'm stacking like 2 guys from a team, then I'm expecting both of these guys to send it over the fence. That's my reason for doing a whole lot of mini stacks.
I like the homer hug. That's a good segue because we need some homers. Luch, give me 3, and then Will, you're going to give me 3. Go ahead, fire off some homers. Be as ambitious as you want to be.
Oh man, all right. Well, it's not going to be Cedric Mullins for me, but I'm going to go with Jesse Winker is going to homer for sure off of a sinker. That's going to happen. Gavin Sheets is, I guess, we'll go with my mid tier, and a team that we didn't get to discuss at all that I like. Not sure about full stack, but I like this lefty power against Taylor Widener. Some of these Rangers bats here. 50% fly ball to lefties this year. I know he's been on the shelf and missed some time, but that's a real thing. So I'm going to go with Joey Gallo as my other home run call.
Will, quickly.
Yeah, let's go. Freddie Freeman, absolutely at the top of my list. Chris Bryant is next. And I know all these guys are in pretty good spots here. And then we're going to go down to the bottom. And let's throw in Jordan Alvarez from Houston.
All right. Did I cash with my my $100 single entry contest of the RG? No, my team was terrible last night. I lost a lot of American dollars, but I'm going to be a goldfish. And tonight we're going to bounce back. You guys should be playing the Rotogrinders contest there on FanDuel. I'm not sure it's filled just yet. There's the $2 variety and the $100 variety. DK tournament. This is a tricky one because like Rizzo's the quote unquote better play. Votto's the lower owned. Who do you prefer in tournaments there, Luch?
Ooh, God. I guess I could say it's lineup dependent, but I think Votto's super sneaky. So if you're playing large field stuff, fire up Joey Votto. Unless, if it's a Cub stack, keep Rizzo in.
Cash, Yahoo, Maeda with McClanahan or McCullers. Like if it's one of those two and it's not hurt the rest of your lineup, you got to go McCullers over McClanahan and cash. If it doesn't, I don't know the prices on Yahoo today. I'm not playing there, but I don't see how it's not McCullers with Maeda. We got to step away and get out of here, make way for crunch time. Not sure who's on it. Maybe Devin can tell me in my ear as I'm mouthing words. Oh, it's Mr. Tuttle and the aforementioned Dave Potts. Jesus, good. They'll be bringing you guys home. How do you guys get yourself RG Premium? We'll go ahead and drop that link in chat for you guys. All the tools that Devin's been showing off and all the articles, everything we sort of reference, the expert rankings, all the good stuff. Get yourself $10 off the first month for baseball or all the sports, however you want to do it. Hit that link in chat. Also, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. Do appreciate you guys asking us questions. Makes the show a lot more fun. We got to get out of here and step away for crunch time because Devin's got to set it up. Starts in 8 minutes. And of course, Kevin Roth will be there giving his up-to-date weather. They take you guys straight up to lock. That was Luch. That was Will. That was Devin behind the proverbial glass. This was baseball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Holler!